As someone who likes academia online, I noticed over the past few years there has been a boom with academia and studying related content. From 12-hour-long study with me streams to Instagram pages dedicated to studying, featuring, beautiful, clean setups, stationery, pristine note-taking that I cannot relate to, and of course the rise in aesthetics such as light and dark academia. The study and academic realm on the internet is a subsect of the productivity genre online, with many students or academics romanticising their deceptively breezy yet very demanding and intense productivity routines, with many advertising themselves as starting their studies between 5 and 5:30 a.m, then potentially leaving for work or just engaging in an 8-hour library session before returning home in the evening to study more and then read maybe an hour or two before bed. Now, unlike the hustle culture sect of the productivity realm, the academic hustle is more romanticised. It's less about promoting oneself as hardworking and more about presenting hard work as coming naturally to the creator. It's less overt grinding and more, this is so natural to me, it's second nature and I love every moment of it vibes, which is usually often implied through the aesthetics of quiet libraries or gandering through the streets of Oxford or Cambridge or deceptively quiet parts of London, gentle strolls to coffee shops and notepads and pens on wooden benches and lots of cosy reading nooks. It's very quaint. Now obviously this environment is far from the loud, energetic, fast-paced hustle culture of the productivity world, and yet the study routines of these people are far from laid back. Now, whilst the payoff of hard work for the hustle culture productivity is usually lifestyle and wealth, the academic payoff is sometimes about grades, but it's actually more about the passion for learning and thus a growing intellect. Despite the intense regimes, their lifestyles and routines seem gentle because of the aesthetics, and of course, there shouldn't be anything intense about working and reading books or advertising oneself about a scholar. It should come naturally. But these people seem to genuinely live and breathe academia, whether that's literature or medicine, and they're always usually successful in their field, with most successful study influencers hailing from prestigious institutions. And because the vast majority of these study influencers are highly successful academics earning many A-star grades or studying at, again, Oxford, Cambridge, Ivy League, the romanticisation of studying serves as an inspirational blueprint for those wishing to be academically successful too. Now, you may be expecting me to talk about the role of class and privilege, which is more often than not the primary factor making intense study regimes look as breezy as they do. Because after all, if you're studying whilst you live at home with well-off parents, or you have a live-in partner who pays the lion's portion of rent and bills, if not all of it, if you don't have any dependents, if you're not a carer, if you don't have to work to afford your studies, your intense study days will feel more carefree and more hyper-focused than those who have to juggle many huge responsibilities and multiple priorities. Okay, obviously I did kind of sort of not talk about class and privilege there, but I talked about it more extensively in my critique on dark academia, so I won't really go into it, though obviously it will play somewhat of a factor in this discussion because they're kind of inherently intertwined. But what I really want to talk about more here is about the psychology of romanticising studying. But before we go any further, I'd like to take a moment to thank today's sponsor, which is Squarespace. Squarespace is an all-in-one website platform empowering individuals to create their online web presence or launch their passion projects. Combining 2 decades of industry-leading design expertise with cutting-edge AI technology to unlock your strongest creative potential, Squarespace's design intelligence empowers anyone to build a beautiful website tailored to their unique needs and craft a bespoke digital identity to use across one's entire online presence. I recently redesigned my website to reflect my colours and also focus on my newsletter, and I really love the simplicity of the layout. It was really easy to reconfigure, and also I have back pages where I'm working on my writing setup and things like that. And you too can run your whole business easily on Squarespace as a one-platform solution, from receiving payments for your products that you sell to donations from people who just like your content and want to give you a tip. And your customers can pay with popular payment methods like Klarna Pay, Apple Pay, Afterpay and ClearPay. Squarespace also has activity scheduling facilities, which is really hard to say but really easy to use. It allows customers to book your appointments with you, so if you're a coach or a brick and mortar business, they can just book appointments with you. And you can also engage with your customers through email campaigns that are super simple to set up, thanks to Squarespace's email templates. So if you want to expand your business or just build a beautiful website for your blogging leisure, go to squarespace.com for a free trial, and then when you're ready to launch, go to squarespace.com/lady of the library to save 10% off your first purchase of a website or domain. So in a completely optimistic sense, I'd like to think that the romanticisation of studying takes a sting off something which is often viewed as a chore, especially for younger people. I think the romanticisation encourages and glamorises studying and academia, and thus may encourage more students to study, which is a good thing. But I'm also a massive miserable cynic, and as such, I feel like it's my duty to question my bubble of optimism. Just pop it right now. So can romanticising studying save those of us who struggle to study normally? Will it boost the performance and outcomes of those of us who attain average to under average results? And will romanticising studying and research make us smarter? Or will the disconnect between unspoken privileges and advantages result in negative self-comparison, poorer performances, a sense of hopelessness, inferiority complexes, and burnout? Or actually, really, is anyone safe from those things? Well, to truly find out, I had to do a bit of a history. We're going to have to go back to the Renaissance, baby. That's right, because long before there was the social media ideal student, there existed the image of the ideal scholar, which tends to be known as the Renaissance man. And yes, he was a man because women weren't expected to be intelligent, multifaceted, or interesting at all back then. So according to Encyclopaedia Britannica, the idea of the Renaissance man derived from Leon Battista Alberti's statement that, quote, a man can do all things if he will. The Renaissance man naturally embodied the basic tenets of Renaissance humanism, which considered humans to be the centre of the universe and thus encouraged people to embrace all knowledge possible and develop their abilities to the fullest extent, embracing all facets of what made a human human, from science to engineering, art, literature and music. When we think about the Renaissance man, Leonardo da Vinci is kind of the pinnacle of the idea, but also we have Michelangelo, Galileo Galilei, and other examples. The ideal scholar was one who was learned in science, literature, art, music, mathematics, cultural history, and politics, which is a lot to ask of one person. Education, obviously, now tends to encourage us to force students to specialise and focus in on particular areas to become an expert in one core field of research. But we can see traces of the Renaissance man in today's social media academic. We see medical students share about how much they read or go to the opera or go to art galleries. Literature students tend to gravitate towards history and language learning, especially ancient languages. And then one could argue that being successful as a social media person has become a skill in of itself, which can be added to the academic Renaissance belt, as it were. You see, running your own business, social media related or not, is another string to the successful academic's bow, as well as indulging in multiple areas of interest to a high standard, from sports to nutrition and exercise and yoga, meditation, to engagements in the arts and culture, heritage, nature and politics. Now, listing all that, it's really easy to see how these people are so admirable. You know what? I can't say admirable. The other day I couldn't say admiral, and now I can't say admirable. I kept calling it admirable instead of admirable, and I'm struggling to say all of the words. Basically, admirable. Can we just say admirable rather than admirable? I can't say that. What's wrong with me? Anyway. As case in point, I doubt I'm not alone in being in awe of these people, you know, how accomplished and intelligent they are. But is the contemporary emulation of the Renaissance man healthy and sustainable for the modern person? You know, we can admire Da Vinci and later tortured geniuses like Byron, Shelley, Oppenheimer, Keats, Nietzsche and Foucault, but most people overlook the fact that most of these intellects, aside from Da Vinci, grew up in the comfort and security of privilege, with many coming from very noble or wealthy families. Thus, is trying to emulate the Renaissance man's intellectual standing almost inevitably a losing game for the vast majority of people who are evidently not at the same levels of privilege and security as these people were. And as such, does motivation and performance begin to dwindle when people are struck with the exhaustion of trying to compete with the image of the ideal scholar that was carved out primarily by privileged white men of the past? And when I say privileged, we're talking exceptionally privileged people, okay? Now, Don't get me wrong, I strongly believe that making studying aesthetically appealing is the equivalent of the metaphorical spoonful of sugar making the medicine go down. And additionally, I'm putting this out there, I think in a world dictated by governments, determined to turn all humans into money-making ants for their own benefit, moralising productivity in order to extort people's labour, and eradicating arts and culture and higher education funding in order to keep the masses away from frivolities which do not earn the government big money and keeps the population more ignorant and thus easier to manipulate and dominate by raising tuition fees up and propagating messages such as education is a waste of money, while simultaneously ensuring their children and families attain the best education money can buy, I'm sort of heartened by the continued aesthetic popularisation of the education, arts and culture, because I believe it serves as a very small middle finger up to those who wish to kill their access to those they deem less worthy of education, arts and culture, i.e. anyone who's not very upper middle class or wealthy, so F those people. Thus, I'm all for the casual aestheticisation of studying, romanticisation of it, and all that jazz. But, again, caveat, is there a chance that we are harming ourselves by setting the bar too high and ultimately turning ourselves away from academia by over-romanticising the reality of research and thus traumatising ourselves with burnout and stress? Are more people feeling disheartened with their self-perceived potential in academia by their inability to romanticise their academic journey, which looks far less elite, clean, calm, stressless, white, rich, successful, ambitious and decluttered than those they look up to? I think technically romanticising studying does work for a lot of people. I think many people find it inspirational, particularly younger people who are aspiring to attend certain universities. But are the behaviours they're aspiring to emulate healthy? Is it truly productive and effective to study for 8 to 10 hours a day straight in a live stream? Whilst romanticising academia and studying may be motivational, its translation into positive results doesn't look promising. A 2022 study on studyholism, which is a term like workaholism, it was coined for the unhealthy obsession with academic excellence amongst Italian adolescents, found that studyholism actually resulted in negative academic performances. Additionally, the study supported the conceptualisation of problematic overstudying as an OCD-related disorder, with the primary emotion fueling this behaviour as worry. Students who crave academic validation will spend hours in their rooms or libraries hoping to fill the role of the ideal student, but at the expense of mental well-being, social life and even their intellectual benefit, because it doesn't translate to better grades. So if you're struggling with motivation to study, to research, to read or commit to academia, romanticising your academic journey is unlikely to be the answer, as it may lead you deeper into a sense of imposter syndrome, more procrastination and a smaller wallet. Your struggle won't be saved by improving your aesthetics, but it will be saved by deep self-reflection, inner work, and managing one's mental health, balancing a social life with responsibilities, and not overextending oneself just to say that you studied X amount of hours a day, rather than study the most cost-effective amount that is enjoyable, valuable, and stimulating for your brain. You see, when most people romanticise academia, most do so by romanticising the external elements of it, rather than the work itself. They romanticise how long they studied, because that number has a lot of status about it. It shows how hardworking you are, how dedicated you are. Or they romanticise the settings, or the location, the aesthetics, the gimmicks of the perfect scholar's desk. For the love of God, if you're going to buy a timer for doing a Pomodoro technique, do not buy this ridiculous one for £88 that everyone seems to have on their desks on social media. It's insane. Why would you pay that much money for a timer? You have a phone. Most people have a phone. If you don't have a phone, you have the internet. Internet has little timers on it. You can use it on Google for free. Or you can get this stupid little panda one that I have for like a tenner. And it's adorable. Don't diss the panda. All you need is a notebook, a pen, and ideally a computer to successfully romanticise academia in order to become an academic. Because really, all you need to romanticise is the absorbing of the information being read, the words that you are writing and the lessons that you are learning. And unfortunately, none of that serves as a pretty picture for Instagram and be posted on social media. But it is far more valuable. I hope you enjoyed this video. Let me know down below what you did. Sorry, my chair keeps squeaking. It was annoying me too, listen. It was really annoying me too, the whole way. And I was like, I can't keep cutting out the squeak. So my apologies. Thank you so much, as always, for watching. Thank you to my patrons, primarily, for making this possible. And I have a podcast and a second channel. All of that's linked down below. If you like this, please consider liking it, sharing it, commenting, or even subscribing if you'd like to see more. And if you have any requests, I have a Google form. You can send in your video requests there. Thank you, as always, for watching. I hope you are happy and healthy. And remember, books save lives, so keep reading.